Good day, Africa, and welcome to Ifrikya Health, the show where health meets Africa.
This is a space where we talk about the issues that touch our lives every single day.
From the food on our plates to the air we breathe,
from the hospitals in our cities to the traditional wisdom in our villages.
Because health in Africa is not just about medicine.
It's about lifestyle.
It's about prevention.
It's about culture.
It's about access.
And most importantly, it's about the people.
Because when Africa is informed, Africa is stronger.
Africa is healthy. Africa thrives.
I'm your host, Nana Kwamena de-Veer, and this is Ifrikya, where health is your wealth. Right here on Ifrikya FM. Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is episode 5 of Ifrikya Health and part 2 of the physiology of fasting. Now before we move on, we need to have a recap. Let's go back. So what we discussed on the last episode, we discussed what happens during the first few hours of when you eat. Glucose enters the bloodstream, insulin spikes. When insulin spikes, it is the key. It drags glucose into the cells for energy use. What happens to the excess glucose? It is stored as glycogen, right? At some point, you stop eating. This is post. Now we're calling the early fasting phase. Within the early fasting phase, what happens? There is a decrease in glucose. And when there's a decrease in glucose, we said there's a decrease in insulin. When there's a decrease in insulin, now that's when its antithesis comes through, which we call glucagon. What does glucagon do? Glucagon has several functions, but we're talking about 2 today, which is glycogenolysis and gluconeogenesis. Glycogenolysis, in which glucose or energy is obtained from the breakdown of glycogen, which we said is the storage form of glucose. So we ended at that. We said that we initiate glycogenolysis to maintain the blood sugar because we've not had any new insertion of glucose within the body, because where are we? We are in the early fasting phase. So now let's talk about what happens when this persists, right? So now at this point, you are fasting. It's persisted. The glycogen you had is exhausted. What do we do now? Remember, glucagon is still present. So what does it enforce? It enforces gluconeogenesis, where we say the liver or the body produces glucose or energy from other sources, namely glycerol, lactate, amino acids. I want to come back to amino acids. I want to note to you that amino acids are the primary units of proteins. Proteins primarily make up your muscles. Okay. But there is another process. Now, this is the process we all wish to obtain during a controlled fasting, which is called ketogenesis. And what happens in ketogenesis? You have a breakdown of adipose fats into fatty acids and ketones for energy. Now, we could go into the physiological details of it all, like we tried to do in the previous episode, but for the sake of time, I want to talk about what happens during an extended fasting. This is already during an extended fasting, but we're talking about extended. So what happens is, like I told you, the body finds other sources of energy. And I mentioned amino acids. And amino acids come from proteins. And what do proteins come from? They primarily come from your muscles. So during extended fasting, when ketogenesis is activated, the body spares the muscle tissue because there's a shift of energy consumption almost entirely to fat stores. And this allows us to preserve lean mass. But there is also another phenomenon I would like to mention. It's called autophagy. And that what happens is that during this process, damaged proteins are degraded while dysfunctional mitochondria are removed. Basically, what you are seeing is cellular recycling. So you're having the benefits of having healthier cells while burning fat as a primary source of energy. And what does this do? This contributes to the overall health of your body. You get to lose weight and we get to use fats as our primary source of fuel. But mind you, as much as ketones is the alternative for, an excess is damaging to the body, and we will discuss that and more, including the benefits of fasting, on the next episode of Afrik Health right here on Ifrikya FM.